breaking news. President Donald J. Trump declared that Venezuelan airspace is effectively closed, one of the strongest warnings he has issued since taking office. And almost immediately after that speech, the Caribbean saw real movement in the sky. At 9:11 a.m., Venezuelan radar crews along the northern coast picked up a faint signal. It was small, almost hidden, but it was fast close to Mach 1.8 and sliding toward their airspace. When they zoomed in, the picture became clear. It was an F-22 Raptor, the most advanced stealth jet America has. The jet did not turn away. It held its path, steady and deliberate. In Caracas, commanders saw the same trace and reacted fast. They believed the F-22 was alone. They believed it was exposed. They thought this was their chance to push back against the United States right after Trump's warning. But what looked like an opportunity was actually the first step of a setup already in motion. If you want to follow this clash moment by moment, press 1 or 9 to stay with us. To understand why this incident exploded so fast, you need to look at where it happened and what was already building in the region. The Northern Caribbean corridor is one of the busiest routes for American shipping. More than 100 US-linked vessels move through these waters every day, carrying fuel, medical supplies, electronics, and food across the Gulf and East Coast markets. Any threat here, even a small one, gets immediate attention from Washington. At the same time, Venezuela treats this zone as a shield. Their radar stations watch it day and night. Their Air Force trains for moments like this, hoping to catch an American aircraft stepping even an inch too close. So, when an F-22 appeared near their air boundary on the same day President Trump announced that Venezuelan airspace should be considered effectively closed, the situation became more than a simple radar contact. It became a test of strength, a test of message, and a test of who would move first. Inside Caracas, officials saw the F-22 as a direct challenge. They understood the political pressure building after Trump's statement. They believed they had to show they were not afraid to defend their territory. For the pilots preparing to launch, this was not just another flight. It was their chance to prove that Venezuela could stand up to the most advanced jet in the world. But while they focused on the target in front of them, they missed the wider picture. The US military had expanded its presence in the Caribbean for weeks. The USS Jack H. Lucas was positioned offshore with full radar coverage. 2 Super Hornets were already flying low under the cloud layer. Satellites were tracking every move in real time. Nothing about this event was random. This was not a simple intercept. It was a controlled situation, shaped by tension, timing, and pressure on both sides. Venezuela thought they were about to send a message. They did not realize they were stepping straight into one. At 9:42 a.m., 2 Venezuelan Su-30 Mk-2 VE fighters lifted off from Barcelona Air Base with full afterburner. The roar shook the ground as the jets climbed toward the faint radar contact moving near the northern coast. Inside the lead jet, Red Falcon watched a single weak trace on his screen and believed this was the American fighter that had triggered alarms across Caracas after Trump's airspace warning. Iron Hawk locked into formation beside him. Both pilots felt the pressure of the moment. This was not routine defense. This felt like a chance to push back the same day the US president declared Venezuelan airspace effectively closed. As they crossed the shoreline, their radar stretched over the open sea. The trace grew clearer, but the target itself stayed invisible, floating like a cold signal waiting to be challenged. Red Falcon checked his R-27R missiles as his system searched for a lock. Confidence built for a second. If they drove the F-22 back, it would send a strong message. But neither pilot knew the truth. The F-22 had tracked them since the moment they left the runway. High above, Viper 1 watched both Su-30 seconds with perfect clarity through the AN/APG-77 radar. He held his altitude and let them come. He didn't need to move first. Offshore, the USS Jack H. Lucas tracked the same picture. Inside the Combat Information Center, voices tightened as range numbers dropped. Captain Marquez watched the arcs overlap and knew a real engagement was starting. The Venezuelan fighters were now committed. At 10:16 a.m., Red Falcon finally got a clean lock. He pressed the launch switch. Two R-27R missiles fired and shot forward at Mach 4.5. His cockpit jolted as the weapons detached. For a moment, he pictured the American jet taking the hit. But the F-22 moved with perfect timing. Viper 1 flipped inverted, dropped 7,000 feet, and spilled chaff. One missile detonated early. The second chased a fading signature before burning out. Both were defeated. Shock hit the Su-30 cockpits. Their best chance had failed. Then a new sound erupted in their headsets, multiple hostile locks coming from angles they couldn't see. The trap was now closing, and both pilots felt it. This is the moment where the fight truly turns, where one side realizes the battle is not what they thought it was. And it raises a question for you watching. In a situation this tense, would you fire first or hold your shot? Press 1 or 9 to comment your call as the clash escalates. The warning tones hit both Su-30 cockpits at the same moment, and the calm of the climb vanished instantly. Red Falcon pulled hard left while Iron Hawk climbed fast, trying anything to shake the sudden wall of hostile locks closing in. Their jets shook under the strain. Flares burned behind them in bright trails, but the threat indicators kept flashing. Whatever was tracking them was fast, precise, and closing from angles they could not see. Far offshore, the USS Jack H. Lucas reached its decision point. Inside the Combat Information Center, Captain Marquez watched the range numbers tighten. The room grew tense as everyone understood what was about to happen. When the last distance marker turned red, she gave the order. Release SM-6 package. The launch cells opened, and 5 SM-6 missiles burst upward, guided by the SPY-6 radar as it updated their angles in real time. Red Falcon never saw the missiles, but he felt the pressure building. He pulled 9 Gs, fighting to hold control as his vision narrowed. But the first SM-6 reached him fast. A flash on his screen, then a blast near the tail. Hydraulic pressure dropped to 0. He pulled the stick, but the jet didn't respond. A second missile hit seconds later, and the aircraft disappeared in a burst of fire spreading across the sky. Iron Hawk heard the explosion and tried to climb into the clouds. He fired an R-73 inches, a last effort to disrupt the incoming threat. But the missile broke apart almost instantly, jammed by the Jack H. Lucas Electronic Warfare Suite. 2 SM-6 seconds tracked his climb with perfect accuracy. They closed the gap in less than 15 seconds. His cockpit filled with alarms. Then everything went silent as the impact tore the jet apart. Above the chaos, the F-22 held steady. Viper 1 watched the sky clear, confirming there were no more threats. Below the clouds, 2 Super Hornets rose into view with their bomb bays open, ready to begin the strike phase of the mission. They had been waiting for this exact moment when the airspace was clean and the path to the target was open. The air battle was over, but the operation was not. The real target waited on the ground, the base that launched the Su-30 seconds and the command system still active. And now the next wave was moving straight toward it. What the Venezuelan pilots never knew was that the moment they fired their missiles, the mission rules changed. Their attack gave the US full clearance to hit the source of the threat, the base that launched them. While the Su-30 seconds were fighting for their lives in the sky, the next phase of the operation was already in motion. 47 nautical miles away, the Venezuelan airbase was running normally. Radar operators watched their screens, unaware that their signals were now guiding incoming weapons. One technician noticed a sudden wave of static. He assumed it was interference and tried to reset the panel. He didn't know that the static was the signature of 3 AGM-88 HARM missiles closing in on his building. Above the base, the 2 Super Hornets lined up for their run. A short call came through the radio. Strike the nest. That was all they needed. The HARM missiles dropped away and locked instantly onto the strongest radar emissions. Inside the radar building, alarms sounded, but too late. 3 explosions hit in rapid order, collapsing equipment and cutting the entire northern radar network offline. The strike did not stop there. The Super Hornets released their second wave. JSOW glide bombs aimed at the hangars, fuel tanks, and command rooms. These were selected to shut down the base's ability to launch more aircraft. On the ground, officers tried to reach command, but all channels were dead. Smoke pushed through hallways as fire crews ran toward burning buildings without knowing what else was coming. Meanwhile, high above the chaos, the F-22 remained untouched. Viper 1 had recorded every radar frequency, every launch signal, and every movement from the defenders. This engagement was no longer just a fight, it had become a major intelligence gain for the US. By the time the base understood the scale of the attack, the next wave of blasts was already descending toward them. At 10:28 a.m., the JSOW glide bombs dropped through the clouds above the Venezuelan base. From the air they looked calm, but on the ground they appeared only in the last seconds. The first impact tore through the fuel tanks, sending a tall column of fire into the sky. The shock wave rolled across the field, shaking buildings and throwing debris in every direction. Hangars collapsed next, their frames folding as the aircraft inside were crushed under burning steel. The main runway cracked down the center and split apart, leaving deep gaps that made any takeoff impossible. Smoke spread across the entire base in less than a minute. Inside the operations center, lights flickered and alarms echoed. Officers tried to regain control, but every screen went dark. A backup radio was switched on, but all channels were silent. Another blast struck close, sending dust and debris into the room. The base had lost its radar, its command links, and its ability to launch aircraft all in under 5 minutes. Offshore, the USS Jack H. Lucas confirmed each hit. Green markers lit up on the combat display. Captain Marquez watched quietly and simply said, "Targets neutralized." Her team marked the strike complete as the last JSOW detonated. Above the smoke, the F-22 circled untouched. Viper 1 monitored the field as the Super Hornets regrouped beneath him. Radio calls came in short bursts. Package complete. Base offline. Threats zero. The sudden silence in the air made the destruction feel even heavier. A Seahawk helicopter flew in to recover Viper 1. He boarded calmly, still focused after a mission where he had avoided 2 missiles, outmaneuvered 2 fighters, and helped guide a full strike. His F-22 remained in perfect condition, untouched by enemy fire. As the helicopter turned back toward the carrier group, the coastline below was covered in smoke. Burning fuel spread across the field. Wrecked hangars and broken concrete marked the spot where the base once operated. Fire crews worked in scattered pockets, but the damage was far beyond anything they could control. Watching this moment raises a hard question. In a clash this fast and intense, would you stand down or answer force with force? If you want to share your view, press 1 or 9 before we move to the final stage of this mission. By noon, the Caribbean sky looked calm again, but the region had changed completely. The 2 Su-30s were gone, the airbase that launched them was burning, and Venezuela's northern air defense network had gone silent. Rescue boats reached the crash sites first. Crews scanned the water but found no survivors, only scattered metal fragments and thin layers of fuel drifting across the surface. Divers later confirmed the damage was so severe that almost nothing remained intact. Inside Venezuela, the shock spread quickly. Several fighter squadrons refused to fly for the next 72 hours. Commanders met behind closed doors, trying to understand how an intercept they believed they controlled collapsed in minutes. Their official statement accused the US of aggression, but international reports pointed out the core fact: the Venezuelan jets fired first. In Washington, officials released a short statement confirming the entire engagement lasted under 40 minutes, no civilians were harmed, and the US acted in self-defense. Behind the scenes, analysts had already begun examining the full data package recorded by the F-22 radar signatures, launch behavior, and reaction times. The intelligence gained was considered as valuable as the strike itself. Offshore, the USS Jack H. Lucas held position as smoke drifted across the coast. Sailors paused on deck, watching the coastline fade behind a thin layer of black. The fight had been brief, but the message was clear. In modern air combat, the side that controls the opening minute often controls everything that follows. As the carrier group prepared to move on, the main question grew louder in every command room. After a loss this sudden and this large, will Venezuela step back or will they try to hit back, risking an even bigger clash? And for you watching, what do you think comes next? Press 1 or 9 to tell us how you believe this conflict will unfold.